Good evening. Welcome to the June 21st Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. We are in the Raymond Broadcast Modular, and the time is 6:35. If I could have a roll call, Mr. Superintendent.
You sure can. Kate Brooks.
Here.
Eric Colby.
Here.
Jenny Cummins.
Here.
Diana Forsland.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler. Here. Don Dillon. Anna Keeney.
Here.
Scott McLean.
Here.
Okay, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I have a couple of adjustments to the agenda this evening. First off, we are going to move number 10. We are going to move the Public Works Transportation Committee report out to us up to first, and everything else will just slide down below it. The other adjustment to the agenda is in number 7, appointments. Karen Roy, the last person on there, if you could just write in there if it hasn't been, is a special education instructional coach. On number 22, which is on page 4, the purchase of the MacBook Air computers and accessories, it calls for attachment F, and there is a revision. Okay, saying that, that is all we have on that. Is there any comment from the public at this point in time? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. So if I could ask the committee for the, or whoever's going to speak, for the Public Works Transportation Committee, if you could go to the podium. And I think you have a PowerPoint from what I see, and if you could just introduce yourselves, please.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to kind of give you guys a brief rundown as to what we have been doing for a good part of the winter. We were tasked to do a fact-finding mission, if you will, on how we were going to approach and present to you what we thought that we needed to move forward as far as a new public works facility. And the reason why this is especially important to us is because it houses a significant portion of our school buses. So with that.
Excuse me, before we go forward, could we do the introductions first? I know we all know you, Scott, but if you introduce yourself and then
Sure.
Dave and the rest of the committee. Thank you.
My name is Scott McLean. I am on the RSU Board of Directors.
I'm Dave Nato. I'm a Wyndham Town Councilor. We were co-chairs of this committee. Introduce yourself, gentlemen.
Tim Nagel from the Wyndham Town Council. Will Haskell with Coral Palmer Consulting Engineers.
Jim McDonald, citizen volunteer.
Doug Fortier, Public Works Director.
Mike Kelly, Transportation Director.
Tony Plant, Wyndham Town Manager.
Okay, great, thank you.
Kate Brooks was also on the committee.
And then Bill Hanson, who is not here right now.
There's a couple of other members that there's 3.
David Douglas and Andrew Mayo.
You're right. David Douglas and Andrew Mayo were citizen participants, and Bill was with us.
All right. So this first picture right here shows the locker room. It is the locker room, men's locker room. In the background there is a compressor. As the guys are getting ready for their workday, that compressor will periodically go off, and it is probably just a few decibels quieter than a chainsaw running at about 5 feet away from you. You cannot have a normal conversation next to somebody there. Okay.
A little history, seeing you probably not aware of it. The current facility was built in stages. In 1978, the first portion was put up. It was too small. In 1980, they added 2 more bays. In 1982, they had to add 2 more bays with the present structure we have. A little bit of census data. In 1980, we were 11,282. 10 years later, 1990, we were 13,020. 10 years later, 2000, we were 14,904. 2010, we were 17,001. And the most recent estimate in 2016 is 18,004. Projections for 2020, Wyndham will be between 18,460 to 19,381. Projections for 2030 is 19,050, 22,094 between them figures. As you can see, we are still rapidly growing as this chart depicts.
This picture right here kind of shows the importance of the actual site itself. This is where a lot of Wyndham's police cruisers are maintained. Obviously the plow trucks, public works trucks, and it houses both the public works, like I said, and the school buses. Can you go to the next slide? This next picture just really kind of shows the lack of space that is in the facility. There is absolutely no room for growth. If Mike needed to add another person to this facility, it's not happening. He would have to go to a different location. The school maintenance garage has been down there since 1980. Offices and meeting spaces are now housed in a separate modular building on site. The parking and circulation and storage for equipment, materials, buses, employees, and other departments. For repairs, fueling, deliveries, resident access, sand, recycling. The current building, not including separate school district modular building, is about 8,800 square feet, and it does not meet either department's requirements for space. Basically what that means is if the school department decided to move out on its own, the public works crew still would not have enough room, and vice versa. If the school department took over the space entirely and public works moved out, the school department would not have enough room. So it's just, the site is not big enough for what we are using it for right now. And then there's a lack of a wash bay, which is a big problem for us as well.
That's due to a stormwater issue. It's right beside the river, and a lot of that you'll hear people saying it's in the wrong spot. A little jumping ahead just a little bit, but that stormwater issue would be rectified if this proposal goes through. Right now, you can't presently wash anything outside. The previous facility proposal space need analysis was in 1997, 98. It went to a referendum for a 20,000 square foot facility in 1999 at $3.9 million, not approved by the voters. Similar facilities built in Gorham in 2000, 2001. Revised facility not put out to the voters. Site analysis for the Morrow property, it's a piece of property that Wyndham owns at the 202 Rotary. It's right on the right, there's a house sitting there. It's the property behind that. That property was looked at with this study. It contains a lot of wetlands and it's not big enough. Space needs and analysis were done in 2013 for just the public works, identified at 23,000 square foot. You can see compared to the building that you're in now at 8,800. Schematic designs included the school district brought the total up to 30,000 square foot, estimated at 7.7 million. It was not approved by a narrow margin in November 2015. That election that year had nothing significant in November, except some councilors that were running. And it was narrowly defeated by 100 votes with only 1,000 people voting.
What we're looking at right now is a joint project. We were tasked to review the proposed schematic designs and report back to the council and the RSU. And we were going to be going in there with recommendations or ideas as to the appropriate scope and estimated cost of the project. We were also tasked with working on identifying appropriate cost shares for the project and the method of sharing those costs. To work on a comprehensive public outreach, education, and awareness communication plan. It is co-chaired by myself and Dave. There are 2 members from each council and RSU board, 2 staff members from each town and school district, 2 members from the general public, and we actually had 3 that volunteered. And participation of the design teams, Allied Engineering, Grant Hayes Architects, and Gorell Palmer Consulting Engineers.
Our due diligence. We had meetings on the 223, 323, 413, 511, 525, 6, 8, and 615. We were supposed to get back in 60 days, but you can see that we extended it due to our due diligence. Review of the schematic design, building program, site plan, and issues. Discussion of renovation versus new versus expansion, future site space options. Define requirements as essential public facility for disaster recovery. It's a Class 4 building. That means it's done by the IBC, the International Building Code. A Class 4 building has to be rigid enough that any major storm, the building's going to stay up and it's going to operate. It's like a fire barn or anything else. This building has to withstand anything. That's one of the reasons, being a Class 4 building, that the price gets driven up. I'll give you an example. We just bought a Quonset hut in South Wyndham. Ended up that it's got to be a Class 4 building because it's fire. For every roof rafter that was there, we had to add 2 more in between to show you the intensity of the structure. We were tasked to identify savings, opportunity for collaboration, reduced operational cost, eliminating duplications and other efficiencies from joint use. With that, we also went out and toured recently completed Westbrook Public Service Facility. It's also a Class 4 building, approximately the exact same size as we're looking at. We reviewed updated cost effective of construction cost, inflation on different approval scenarios and timelines.
The Westbrook facility too, just so that you are all aware, they also house their bus fleet at that same site. So the scope of the project that we went and looked at Westbrook is very similar to what we are hoping to accomplish. A couple of photos, the one that's on the left there is the Westbrook locker room, and the one on the right is ours. The one that's on the top, that is Westbrook's break room. The one that is down below is our break room / meeting room / gathering room, whatever it is. It's a room with tables and vending machines. Picture on the left is a shot of the inside of the bays at Westbrook, and obviously on the right is ours. If you will take note as to the picture that's on the left, particular note to the rafters that's on the ceiling, and you see how close all of those rafters are. That is an example of a class 4.
The other thing, it's not quite that visual in the picture on the right, but the lift right now has a police car on it and then 2 trucks in there. That's all the room we have. If you tried to do something long-term, you know, like put the street sweeper in there and get it ready for the summer, you don't have the room for it. The other things are the doors are so small on this facility that you have to take the plow and the wing off to put the trucks in the garage.
Picture on the right is office space in the Westbrook facility, and on the left is, I'm sorry, other way around. The other one is the Wyndham office space. The findings is the facility as proposed in 2015 is the right facility for both the town and the school district. The site is well located. Redevelopment improves efficiency, reduces environmental impacts. Continuing to have a shared facility will add efficiencies, resulting in lower overall costs. The addition of space and other features, i.e. a drive-through wash bay, will improve reliability, longevity of the equipment, saving repair and premature replacement costs. One thing that's really great about a drive-through wash bay is the blind spots that are on the sides of these buses is like that of a football field. It's unbelievable. So when you have bus drivers that don't need to back up all the time, you're improving your safety.
Plus you're improving your efficiency when the buses come in. You can wash 2 at a time. So there's greater throughput. The other thing I have to mention in the findings is this committee had 3 people from the public on it, and we come back with a unanimous decision. Everybody felt exactly the same way. This picture here, one of the issues with the building we have now is Gorham's facility was built in 2001 when ours went out to vote. And if dispatch gets the call and sends it to to Gorham and Wyndham at the same time, Gorham can put their plows out as soon as their drivers get there because their plows sit inside. You got over 40 gallons of hydraulic fluid that has to be warmed up before these things can start to move. It takes Wyndham drivers anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes to warm their trucks, and then it takes them almost that long again to have them loaded, because you can't leave them loaded outside, it'll freeze. So the one efficiency you'd get that you don't really realize is the plows would be on the road as soon as they get the call and people get in there. This slide shows the increase in cost. Our last building was roughly a little over $7 million, and now we're at $9 million, a year and a half later. The cost jump is staggering. And this shows the longer we wait, the higher that cost is going to be.
Looking at a couple of cost-sharing approaches, and keep in mind that these are preliminary, but this is what we are tentatively looking at. The first model is a partnership model. It's allocated space cost sharing of debit payments for 20 years. Then after that, there would be no additional lease payments on the facility. That would also include common maintenance, repair, equipment, replacement, utility cost, etc. Shared responsibility for the facility as part as a partnership, continued collaboration using an interlocal agreement. The range from early peak annual costs of about $180,000, declining to about $120,000, plus other costs above what our current lease is, which is $30,000. The lease model is the other model that we are possibly looking at. That is based on an estimated useful life of 40 years at roughly $22 a square foot. Essential public facilities, backup power, disaster recovery, etc., to cover debt and depreciation plus maintenance and utilities. The annual inflation-based adjustment based on typical commercial lease, an annual lease payment of about $170,000, which would be adjusted yearly.
The recommendation that we've come up, and again it was unanimous, was to ASAP put the design team thinks we have to move immediately. Plan for April or June 2018 construction start. Begin site approval packages for the Wyndham Public Works, for Planning Board and DEP. The DEP permit will take anywhere from 6 to 10 months. And if we wait until we get the go-ahead, that 6 to 10 months would add close to $1 million in cost. Proceeds with development of the building plan to support the bid solicitation in anticipation of the voter approval to be shovel-ready. Determine the most beneficial project delivery. There's different ways to deliver a project. The construction for the town, a design build, or a construction manager. Bill can explain them if anybody needs the 3 different approaches. So plan to seek voter approval as soon as possible. We're basically looking at November. Work to communicate with the public through all available channels and any other way we can find. Publicly communicate support of both the council and the RSU. We need both bodies on board. That's the end of it, but let me give you a little bit of a tidbit. Right now, Public Works Garage is here. The bus module is here. The buses park about 50 yards away. You have about 4 industrial accidents a year on bus drivers falling, walking to their bus. The new, and we don't happen to have it, but the new facilities, the buses would park here, the driver of the car, or the driver of the bus would park his car directly in front of him. So it eliminates a lot of issues that you people have with. And other than that, any questions?
Pete.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of quick ones, and thank you for the presentation. It's always, I don't know, sort of solidifying when you hear that it's a unanimous decision. Couple of things. So the DEP permitting, you plan on proceeding with the request for the DEP permitting before you get voter approval?
100% yes. If not, we won't be shovel-ready in 18. You know, and that year stagger would run it anywhere between $500 and $1 million in cost.
And what's the cost for the permitting process? Anybody know?
You asked that question last night, we didn't have a chance to run through the numbers to get it, but, I mean, the design for the civil side may be anywhere between 40 and 60. But that's a general guess right now. I haven't done the actual values. It's not gonna be much more than that.
Okay. All right, thanks. And then my other thing is, with the shared approach of the cost allocation, is that a 50-50 shared? And or can you remind us about what the space allocation is going to be? I can't remember from the original presentation of how much the RSU would have versus the town.
So basically, the space allocation, the RSU uses about 25.4% of the total space. And that's what we are tentatively looking at. There was a couple of comments about how that wanted to be negotiated. I'm holding firm.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have,
Now, the other thing to understand is, at this point in time, these figures are all tentative. The $9 million is basically as close as we can get set. But the other figures are tentative. Tony and Dawn are still discussing the partnership or the shared.
Some of these figures we won't know until we have an actual
right,
project cost, until we actually have issued the bonds, and we know what interest rates are, which of course at this point are beginning to creep back up. So in addition to the effect of construction cost inflation, you have the potential effect of rising interest rates depending on when we issue the bonds. If we were to assume a November 2017 vote, we wouldn't be issuing bonds until at least 2018, possibly 2019. We might want to accelerate that so that we not only have funds to build the project, but we also lock in lower interest rates. But constantly seems likely to go up in the future.
yeah. Just so I'm clear, and the board is clear, you're here tonight, and I know you presented to the council last evening. Basically, to get our support is kind of, I mean, we've had the conversation prior, we've had it earlier, we've had it a few times actually, that it would not benefit the RSU to go out, because I know Bill has previously has presented approximate rough numbers to us about what it would cost us if we built our own facility, and we felt we would be doing our due diligence, speaking of that word, to stay right where we are. It's a better deal all the way around for everybody. But I guess the other thing is, and I want to know, it's kind of like, what are you looking for from us right now? And can we plan on getting financial updates as they come in? Because I think, is this the end of that committee, I guess, Joe? Is that committee that you presently have, because I know they were only put out there to look at the building, if they dissolve, is there a way that, how do we get further updates as it goes along, so we have an idea of cost-wise and what is going on, et cetera? What is the communication plan on here on out?
I'm happy to address that. Yes, please.
So the current charge of the joint project team was to examine the schematic design narrative, determine whether it was the appropriate scope of the project, to review costs, see if meeting the needs of the respective departments, there were any way to eliminate features from, and by eliminating features, eliminating cost from the project. The team's unanimous finding was that this is the right project at the right time for the right reason. In addition to work on a cost-sharing methodology, the team has done that. I don't think we're at the end of that. What we seem to be getting, and where the team was, is that the preferred approach was the partnership model. It most closely resembles the relationship today, which was the same relationship the town had with the school department. I mean, there was no real reason to have a formal agreement when it was still the Wyndham School Department. We're a few years away from that, obviously. And I view this as really kind of one item of unfinished business from the consolidation. We just continued the relationship as it was. That's worked well. We continue to have a good working relationship both at the administrative level, at the operational level. So I think that relationship works. There's no reason to want to change that. And I think going to a more typical commercial lease style of arrangement would weaken that. We've also talked about the benefits of kind of the informal collaboration in the building. So we're still going to have to do some work on the cost sharing, particularly as the project moves along. The charge also included developing that kind of comprehensive public outreach, education, and awareness program. The team decided, we did spend some time talking about that and about really how we need to communicate this issue to people at a level that they will understand. They need to get why this matters to them, because the public works facility, the school transportation maintenance facility is, you know, one of the least public of our public functions. So, you know, it's not like everybody goes to the public works or school transportation facility like they go to the library or to a school for an event. They don't get how it relates to them. What we need to be able to do is to translate that into what it means for the average resident, the average taxpayer, and that's part of what the team would do as well. There is also in the charge that both the town council and the RSU board approved some anticipation that the joint project team could become a building committee at such point that if the project were to be approved and we move into construction. So this would not automatically dissolve, and I think with the involvement of both RSU and town council members as well as staff, I think there would be, you know, that regular reporting relationship.
Excellent. Thank you. That answers my question. Kate?
Would you share the outcome of last night with the town council and whether they reached consensus or not?
We did not vote on it. It was a discussion item, as it is with you. We had several councilors, one that thought it should be built in pieces. We looked at things like that, and it's not possible because of, you know, build a piece this year, another piece next year, or 2 years later. That's what happened last time, and all it does is add cost. Plus, the site work couldn't have been done properly. So that was one discussion, one counselor. Another counselor kept saying that we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. In the end, said that they support it. We understand the cost of this facility. We've showed you how it went from a 4.3 or whatever the figure was to a 7 to now a 9 in a span of 16 years. That's one of the reasons the committee come up and said we need to move forward as soon as possible. With that said, there's more than adequate support on the council to move this forward.
You'll say, Kate?
Do you agree with that, Kate?
Yes. It hadn't been mentioned.
No, I just wanted to bring everything out. Nobody, if they didn't watch the meeting.
Eric?
I have more of a concern. I think we need it. I mean, it's time, and we end up putting good money after bad if you don't. My concern is for the council is that permits for building are going out like candy, and that's we have schools that are already pressured. Is there any thought or consideration about that? Because it's going to be pretty soon we're going to need new buildings where we're already, where we're being stressed right now. So that's going to add another thing on top of that. And I know it's not related, but I just was curious why you guys were in the room. Is that a concern or a thought? Yeah.
It hasn't been looked at totally yet. We just had a leadership meeting. The chair thinks it's time to start looking at limiting permits. I'll tell you from my knowledge that there's many developments already scheduled and in the pipeline for Wyndham. And
Ben came and did a little presentation, and through that gave us a projection of population, and that's when I'm going, oh my goodness, we're going to be doing something on that part. So I don't want to hijack that. I just want to throw that out there.
No, it's totally understood. We realize that. We realize what the middle school already looks like. and the conversations you've had with that. I was on the first committee. We understand that. I volunteered down the primary school. I understand how full they are.
But just for clarification, though, you're going to discuss a moratorium. I don't want anybody to think that the town council is kind of like
It's something in the
at
future
beginning
that
of
might be
discussion.
looked at.
And I'll come to the meeting and listen in. I don't want to
Okay.
sidetrack it too
Go
much.
ahead,
Just
Pete.
throw that out there.
All right, two more things. Part of what we look at when we go through our budget process as a board is what's the impact going to be to the taxpayers. And so regardless of how the cost gets allocated, the debt service is going to be the same for the project. Have you done any preliminary figures on what the impact is to a taxpayer?
Well, and again, adding all the disclaimers that we've used before about these being preliminary figures, very, very round figures for the median home value in Wyndham would equate to approximately $50 a year, or roughly $4 and change a month.
And I think that's something important to stress as well.
We-
My second point or question is, how is this going to work? Like, if we do a partnership, RSU, Town of Wyndham partnership in terms of this project, how does that work with our cost sharing as an RSU between Wyndham and Raymond? Because this would be a new construction project. I'm just wondering if that messes, if that becomes complicated.
I think as Mr. Plain has pointed out, it would be some form of a memorandum of understanding or in a local agreement. So it wouldn't be that the RSU has ownership or responsibility for the building. So essentially, what would fall to the RSU is the operating expenses, which would be the lease and any of the common area maintenance items that would come to pass, and that would be split in the current 3664, which will change over time, as you know.
So the
more-
shared
more of a
cost-
tenant?
So it's lease,
All right,
It's more of a
Yeah.
tenant.
Yes.
right.
so it would be a tenant, no matter what approach that we use, whether it's a
Mhm.
shared
Well,
approach or.
Right.
Yep.
I
correct.
understand that the first version of it, that money's only there for the life of the bond. And then it's only shared partnerships on the facility. Need a new roof, it's shared 75-25. So, long-term, I don't think many of you will be sitting here 20 years out with the bond, 20 years out with the bond.
I don't know if I'll be sitting anywhere.
They got a wheelchair ramp
That's okay.
outside.
It's okay.
But 20 years out, when the bond's paid off, that obligation goes away.
Yeah, I know, I'm thinking more near term.
I'm just trying to show,
Yep.
I see you thinking near term. I'm trying to show that sometimes near term should be looked at a little longer, because we have looked at the savings long term.
Now, we need it.
We all set?
We need to know
It's-
it.
it's-
Mr. Kelly,
No.
has Rose approved this plan?
Certainly.
Then I'm on board.
And I think even though we are, we're not gonna vote on this,
I'm bus driver.
but, you're a bus driver, okay. But we probably, what I would like to do is find out what is get a general consensus of the board, whether we would, are in favor of this. So if I could get like a thumbs up, if you're in favor of it? Nobody's in favor of it?
Well, it's
Right now?
conditionally,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about
Yeah.
preliminary
I mean, the
numbers.
way it is now.
You
Right.
could use all the same disclaimers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with everything, I mean,
I think
to
it's a
go
good
forward.
idea.
To
Right.
go
Yeah.
forward.
Yes.
We're
We
going in the
definitely-
right
We wanna
direction.
go forward, do we wanna help
We're
them?
going
If
in
they
the right
wanna go-
direction.
We agree there's a need.
Yes.
I agree there's a
think-
need.
if
We're
I
going
might
in the right
choose-
direction.
I think there needs to be some clarity, and it may not occur this evening, but clarity when an official vote is needed to move this project forward for a November election, which, let's face it, we're almost into July. So
We need that point,
consensus,
yeah.
yes. It comes first from them,
Right.
the affirmative, and then it comes to us. And at that point, hopefully we will have some firmer information to base the decision on,
And the committee's gonna continue, correct?
apparently.
Well, if you know, can you get up and introduce yourself, please, Jim?
So I'm Jim Nangle, I'm from the town council. One of the things that we talked about, and Bill can say this too, is that we would like to start moving on this project now with the permits and getting bids back so that when we go to the election, we have a number. Because we all know that if we say we've got $9.5 million to build this facility, all of the bids are gonna come in at 10, right? I mean, if you know how big the piggy bank is, you're gonna take that and then some.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons we're kind of looking for consensus early, is to start the process now. I'd never been into the Public Works garage until February 23rd, and I was astounded. I mean, I could not believe the condition and what the crews were working in there. So I just wanted to reiterate that. It was something I mentioned last night too, but yeah.
All right, then, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
I have a question then. So who would be paying for the permits?
That's my question.
We take care of it.
The town?
The town would be moving forward.
Thank you.
It eventually all gets put into one pot.
That is true. It depends on whether it comes out of your left pocket or your right pocket. We can get
No,
that,
I didn't quite
but
mean
it's
it that
okay.
way. I meant that it still, it would end up as part of the initial, you know, the overall cost.
So I'll speak out loud. I would be for it at this point.
It's up to the voters.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No, I just want to make a comment that this committee had a lot of expertise on it. Aside from me as a board member, there were folks who really tore this apart and really studied it to see if it could come in cheaper. And it couldn't. I mean, your colleague poked more holes in it and got shot down more times, but poked a lot of holes, thoughtful holes, in this project to see if we could find some savings for both sides. And it simply is not to be. This facility, I don't want to beat the drum again, but the longer you wait, the more it costs. And this is a substantial increase in our budget from $30,000. And I, for one, don't want to wait another year and have the additional $1 million or whatever that is tacked onto that, because we just finished our budget season and we know how tough 180 is to cut. So I guess in closing, I was very impressed with the thoughtfulness of this committee and how they really tore it down and built it back up. We had committee members which were from the community, which I think was a great thing. So I have, as one person of, I don't know how many people were on that committee, but as one person sitting in that room for all of those meetings, I have a high regard for the decision-making process, and I have a high regard for the decision. So I fully support this project.
Great. I definitely support it.
I know it's a need. We need some more information.
Agreed.
I support it. Yeah, I think it's definitely something we need, and I think we're going in the right direction with this.
Great. I want
How
to.
about you?
I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for all the work you've done up to this point, and we will be waiting with bated breath to see what comes next and what the expectation is to get this information out there and what further information you can keep rolling into us.
That
Keep
brings us to a
updated.
good point. When we develop talking points, we need some developed from the school side, and we need the support from the school to put this out to voters.
We'll do that.
I'm just making that.
I think we said we would do it
making
last
that.
time, but you decided not to go to.
I'm just making that point. I'm just
sorry, I
making
didn't
that
bring
point.
that
We're going to need your support not only saying yes, but getting this information out there.
We got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the committee, because there's very few committees I've ever been on when something comes up to a meeting like this, that the majority of members are sitting here in front of you. So,
Yes, and thank you all for taking the time to come. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, great. Next on our agenda will be an update to the board from our new assistant principal at the Wyndham Middle School, who is chair of the homework committee. So if you could please come up. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Kim McBride, and I'm the teacher of the Gifted and Talented program at Wyndham Middle School for 9 more days, at which time I'll assume the role of the assistant principal at Wyndham Middle School. And I'm here this evening to give you a set of, I guess, guidelines and observations that we have put together as a result of our work over the past year. And I have these in writing. I'll give them to you, go over each of them, and make a suggestion for further action. But before I do any of that, I'd like to thank our committee members, which included Drew Patton from the middle school, Holly Wilson and Miles Bisher from the high school, Christine Hessler, Crystal Vargo Ward from Manchester, Amy Engelberger from the middle school, along with Stacy Hood, also from the middle school, Eric Colby, a board member, Natalie Skavoran helped us with some gave us some technical assistance, Darcy McDuffie from the primary school, and Deb McAfee from Wyndham High School. And I hope I haven't forgotten anyone, but I think so. So this is we've written a homework, what we're calling a homework position paper. It is not a suggested policy, but it is a suggested list of guidelines that the committee agreed to. All of this, I'd like to remind you, is in support of Goal 2 of the strategic plan, which falls under the category of environment for learning. The mandate to take a look at homework policy and homework practices in our district was an outgrowth of that work. And if we're short one, I have plenty more. Okay. You know I have to hit
Right. But I also know I could call you the year, and I just got
Thank you. All right. So thank you. So, by way of preface, let me just say that we acknowledge that homework has long been a central part of the American high school experience, and it's been seen, it has served a number of purposes over the years. In some cases, it's been used as a way to extend the school day at no extra cost. To teach, we believe that it taught non-academic skills like focus, perseverance, time management, and we also hope that it solidified the mastery of skills taught during the day. But what was surprising to the committee was how much of the research is contradictory and inconclusive. And it became pretty clear to us that the value of homework really varies with the assignment, with the goals of the assignment, and with the age of the student and what the teacher is trying to accomplish. We did survey students in grades 6 through 12 and reviewed the most current research. I can characterize that survey. I don't have the graphics with me, but if you decide that you want more policy guideline, I can certainly do that. And I can characterize generally what we found, none of which I have to say was terribly surprising. There were nothing too surprising in that research. So what I have for you tonight is a series of 9 policy guidelines. I really wanted to make it 10 because there seemed to be a nice round number, but we ended up with 9, so there we go. And it turned out, although this was not really intentional, that these guidelines really are conclusive with guidelines put forward by the Great Schools Partnership, which we kind of realized after we had done all this. On the reverse of this paper, you'll find a reference to 3 works cited. That's not an exhaustive list of resources that we use, but these are those resources that are directly referred to in this document. So. First of all, it was pretty clear to us that it should be the intention of the RSU 14 to assign homework that is relevant, challenging, meaningful, and purposeful, and that reinforce classroom learning objectives.
Homework might provide students with the opportunity to apply and extend the information they have learned. It might help them, give them time to complete unfinished class assignments that they started, and perhaps to develop some independence and scholarly inquiry. The most effective homework will be that which is clearly an extension of the learning targets and encourages students to apply what they've learned in class in new and creative ways that can be done reasonably independently. The third precept is that whenever possible, students should participate in the design of the homework, and that homework should be differentiated to meet the needs of the students, just like instruction during the class is. So students might have some choices about what they do and how they choose to demonstrate their mastery of learning targets. Number 4 is kind of a big one. We discovered that there's no reliable formula for how much homework students should be assigned at a given age. There used to be this feeling that 10 minutes per grade level was appropriate, so you get 10 minutes in grade 1 and 20 in grade 2 and so forth. But there really isn't much research that supports that, other than kind of an easy, I guess it's sort of an easy back of the envelope kind of guideline to remember. But we do feel that although there may not be a formula, it would make sense for teachers to use all of the collaborative tools that we have at our disposal now through technology to coordinate their assignments with other teachers that the same students have, so that we don't have 4 projects due on the same day and so forth. We understand that the actual time required to complete assignments will vary with each child's study habits, academic skills, and selected course load. There's lots of research that supports increasing homework for the more rigorous courses in preparation for college. In grades K through 5, there's lots of evidence that the most effective homework is an expectation that students read each night, but that other kinds of homework are not necessarily quite so closely associated with increased student achievement. And 7th, and this is something new, and I've seen this kind of shift even with my own children who are 5 years apart in school, that high quality collaborative activities in the classroom may in fact be more valuable than homework completed alone, and that parents should not conflate homework with learning or course rigor. Parents often have a love, as we talked about when I appeared before you back in January, parents often seem to have a love-hate relationship with homework. They really struggle sometimes with the stress that it puts on the family and on the family schedule, but at the same time, they equate that with learning, that my child doesn't bring a lot of homework home, therefore they're not learning. But in fact, we know that as education becomes more standards-based, more collaborative, that those activities in the classroom can be really important, and sometimes more so than projects completed alone at home. To state the obvious, students from some households may find it more difficult than others to complete homework due to lots of factors, including competing commitments with outside activities, family responsibilities, limited access to technology and learning space, although our survey of students did not indicate a lack of access to technology or internet access. And then teachers, of course, knowing that, must be sensitive to homework grading policies that place those students at a further disadvantage. And I think a shift from perhaps a few years ago is that some of the students who find it most difficult to complete homework are not the students who are from a lower socioeconomic family. Sometimes these are students of considerable privilege who have many opportunities available and ready access to activities and transportation. Sometimes those are the students who find it the most difficult to complete assignments. And then last, teachers should clearly communicate homework expectations and grading policies to parents on a regular basis. And with regard to grading, I think as a district, we're all pretty much on the same page now about homework being graded under habits of work and not necessarily impacting our measure of whether or not a student met an actual learning target in the classroom. I alluded to the survey. We surveyed students in grades 6 through 12. There's more we can do if you would like, depending on how you would like to proceed with this. But very quickly, just a few nuggets that I thought were sort of interesting, which you do not have. And again, I'd be happy to get you a more complete report. Bearing in mind this is self-reported, 70% of the students say they usually get their homework in on time. And I think that certainly seems reasonable to me, but there it is. 80% of our students report that they do not feel any kind of significant or consistent stress around homework. And that sounds great until you stop to consider that 20% do. And I think that probably varies with the rigor of the course, the level of the course, the age of the student, and the predisposition of students to be really conscientious. About 60% of students in grades 6 through 12 say that they can complete their homework pretty much independently. And last, 83% report that they really do need internet access to complete their homework, but 87% say that they have it, that that's not a barrier for them. So we seem to need a lot of internet access, but we seem to have that for them. So next steps, these are, you have in front of you sort of the results of this first part of our work. This is not intended to be a policy. It may be that the board chooses not to write a policy. This could be something that you want handled at the building level, as long as practices are consistent with these 9 observations or something like them. Or you may choose to have a policy. I believe in the past we have had a homework policy. I don't believe we do presently. So with that, I would be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Eric,
Well,
I knew you were going to have one.
I really don't. I just wanted to say, unfortunately, I did not make many. In fact, I think I only made one. So the hard work was done by this. She was nice enough to give me credit, but work schedule has not allowed me to be able to get out that early. So thank you guys for the work. I did follow the notes, but I did not carry any of the load. I didn't get over those. So.
But your presence was appreciated at that meeting.
I'll pay you later.
Do you have a next step?
I think we're really waiting direction from the board. I think if you would like to proceed with some kind of more formal policy, we would certainly be more than happy to help craft one if you would, if that's the wish of the board. So that's where we are.
The one thing that always concerns me is the fact that, would you like with each building? I get concerned because I don't want the 5th grade at Jordan Small to be different than the 5th grade at the Manchester school. And to me, I would see an issue with doing it by building. I would rather see it by grade, if anything, only because we're just too spread out, for something like that.
Right, and we did acknowledge that if it is your wish that we go that route, that we would need to develop some different guidelines, probably for breaking it up something like K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12, something like that.
Madam Chair, could you remind us what the charge of the committee was, like why this was formed, what we were hoping to accomplish from it?
One of the issues that came up with the strategic plan that we put forth, the data collection from the students, talked about, particularly at the high school level, how stress homework can be in combination with everything else that's expected from them. And so one of the goals of the strategic plan is really about well-being, health, and taking care of yourself and stuff like that. And the students were really, I would say, pretty passionate about this topic, that particularly our juniors who are looking at colleges, are trying to do homework, are trying to do sports, they're feeling really stressed. And so that's really how it evolved from the students.
And that's kind of my recollection. I think in our initial conversations, what we were trying to find out or get to is what's the appropriate amount from a time perspective of homework per night, per grade, whether it's 10 minutes per grade. I mean, there's research out there, and I don't know that we've gotten to that point yet.
Yeah.
So if the committee is to continue, that's kind of where I want to see the focus be.
Yeah. And another part of that was the fact, because, and I did hear comments, and it was different grades, was the fact is kind of like, well, what we get for homework is what we didn't finish in school, which has always bothered me, because it's like, well, how are you supposed to finish it at home if you never really got all the instructions on how to do it? So I think it gets down into like the subsets of of the philosophical.
So if I could respond to that, because I think it's a really good question and an interesting one, and I think it would be super helpful if there were a formula out there that we could use and say, this is what it should look like K2, and this at 3-5, and so forth. In fact, such a formula doesn't actually exist. And I think perhaps a more productive way to think about it would be to think about, what are we trying to accomplish with the homework assignments that we give? And let's make sure that when we assign homework, it's homework that is truly necessary in order to keep learning moving forward. And let me give you an example. And this also, Marge, addresses the finish something at home that you couldn't finish at school kind of issue. In grades K through 8, we have all implemented the Units of Study writing program, as you probably know. And that program is heavily dependent on a writing workshop model in the classroom, so that there's a mini lesson and then there's time to write. And during that writing time, students are not only writing, but they're also getting feedback. They may be conferring with their writing partners and so forth. Sometimes that whole writing workshop process chews up most of the time that we have available. And so for students to leave the class with a very clear understanding of what, for example, a lead paragraph should look like, or a concluding paragraph should look like, and craft that at home, is a really reasonable, in my opinion, thing to ask students to do, because they have their rubric in front of them, they have clear instructions. They just simply didn't perhaps have the time on the clock to sit down and actually write. And so asking them to do that sort of thing does make sense. And I do think, and this is purely anecdotal and my own experience based on my sample size of one child who lives in my house. And I can tell you that as I alluded to earlier, I perceive anyway a shift away from, even in junior year, which my daughter just completed, in those high-level AP and honors courses. If I contrast her year with my son's 5 years ago, I perceive less homework and more collaborative conversations and projects going on in class. So that has translated, at least in my house, to what I perceive as less stress around homework than used to be the case in the past. And she passed everything, so I think she did okay.
I know. I think I find it more with math,
Mm-hmm.
because once you leave the classroom, if you don't really know how to do that, and I don't know about anybody else, but I have been the stucky and been accused because I don't do it the right way, and so it becomes a note, became a note on the paper, go back to the teacher and say, sorry, couldn't finish it because I couldn't help them with it and they didn't really understand it. And I think I have found that piece of it, not necessarily writing or projects, I have found it more to be the math that has been the biggest problem.
Right, and I'm not a math teacher, but I understand that, and I think that if you're really focusing on the automatic nature of those skills, so they know their math facts like that, then practicing them and practicing them and practicing them at home may have some value, but asking students to, in this case, apply concepts to novel problems at home may not be the best approach, because it can just lead to frustration.
Yeah. Can I ask Kate, because Kate's the chair of the policy committee?
We don't have there was a Wyndham policy back in the day, and there was a Raymond policy, but we do not have an RSU policy.
Would this be enough information to put in?
I don't think so. I do have a couple of questions, though. First of all, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You said you surveyed the students. I'm wondering how large the sample was to get these, because the results that you cited are pretty interesting. It doesn't necessarily indicate stress.
Right. So at both the middle school and high school, about half of the students responded to the survey.
So that's a fair
Yes.
enough.
Mm-hmm. I think we had, I'm pulling these numbers from my memory, about 240 replies at the middle school and about 300 and some at the high school, which would in fact be less than half of the high school. Yeah.
Because I'm astounded, 80% no stress, 60% can complete, 83 need 87. It doesn't scream to me stress.
Right.
At all.
Right. And understanding too that this is self-reported, and there may be reluctance from students to admit or acknowledge their stress. I don't know. I think
Well,
you're right.
The other piece that I think is interesting, because this came from the strategic plan, which not only included student responses, but it included community responses and parent responses. And I suspect perhaps that some of the angst came from that population, that it impacted family life. And it's difficult to work in the homework and the activities and family events, and so I don't think we can flesh that out, but I think that might have had maybe a larger impact on the results of this formulating to number 2 on the strategic plan. The other thing that I'm curious about, I know you've surveyed students, and actually, I think we mentioned this before, or maybe it was after, but we had gotten an earful from several students at the high school when we met with the student council, and it was a unique perspective for us to hear their take on homework. It actually was pretty eye-opening for me, but I don't have a student in the high school anymore. But I digress. I'm interested in any kind of thought of surveying the teachers.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that did come up when we spoke to the student council was, well, you know, this teacher does this, and it's due the same day as that teacher, and you had mentioned coordinating homework and projects so they're not overloaded. And to me, that would take some communication within disciplines
Right.
To make that happen, which
Yes.
I'm not so sure is occurring now.
Yes, I think that's right. And I think that's why the committee feels strongly that regardless of the amount of homework, that it really does need to be coordinated, especially when it comes to studying for tests and completing projects. We do have a survey for parents and teachers.
You do?
That can hit the ground in the fall.
I think that'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see what teachers think, because they're the ones that are doling it out, and obviously they do so, I would think, for the most part, because they see merit in it. But, and I'd like to see how the student survey that you took contrasts with the parents.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think this whole question of homework and stress and how it fits into family life is consistent with how family life has changed and how schools sometimes need to change as well to acknowledge the busyness of families. And I don't in any way suggest that we need to lower our expectations or standards in any way, because students are involved in a lot. But as I reflect on my own middle school and high school years, there weren't as many opportunities for other activities and diversions as there are now. And, you know, certainly gaming has played a part in that, but I'm not even sure that's the biggest thing. There are just so many really positive and good things for students to do, and opportunities to travel and all kinds of things that I don't remember growing up, for example, anyone in a skiing family. I don't think they even existed in Maine in the way they do now, and certainly no one would have put that forward as an impediment to their students' homework completion, but we hear that now. So, you know, families change. And
Now, you made a comment about homework being graded in the habits of work, but they're still graded.
Yes.
For the homework as part of, I mean, there's tests, there's class in class participation and homework. I'm not sure how it's broken down at the high school anymore, but homework is part of the mark, right? Besides the habits of work. No? Yes.
It won't be next year.
This year at the high school, math, the whole math department, as I understand it, moved all of the homework to habits of work. And I think it was a change that students had to get used to, because in talking with some of the math teachers, it was pretty clear that if the students who did not do their homework were the ones who were struggling with assessments, and that in order to remediate assessments, the teachers often required that the students go back and complete the homework. I think that's correct. And so next year that will be true across the board, as it is at the middle school as well.
So if you do not pass your homework in, it does not take away from your mark? Am I misunderstanding this?
So it doesn't take away from the mark, which indicates the extent to which you met a learning target. It does, however, show up in habits of work, which we really promote as being as important as being able to meet another kind of target. So let me give you an example. I gave weekly vocabulary assessments to my students. It is possible that there would be a student who could achieve a 3 on that assessment without having completed the entire packet for the week. And if they could do that, then they got the 3 because they did demonstrate that they had mastered the material, but their habits of work grade would reflect the fact that they hadn't done what was asked of them. The reality is, though, that didn't usually happen. If someone didn't do the work, they didn't usually get a 3. So that usually only happened once.
No, on that subject, and I'm going back to the meeting that Kate mentioned of us with the student council. It wasn't actually the student council, but it was a population of the high school students. And I'm sure it's completely anecdotal, but what was mentioned was that when it was graded as habits of work, to just show that you completed the task, there were some students who confessed that they handed in the same homework assignment on multiple occasions, and the teacher would just check off the fact that they handed in homework. But when it's not being graded and it's not being looked at, and you're just checking off that somebody handed something in, then that's a kind of a pitfall that you can fall into. So yeah, again, completely anecdotal, I'm sure, but
And well,
just
then
something
that feels like a different issue about not good teaching.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It was very eye-opening and shocking.
I
to
hope
us.
that doesn't happen. But.
Anybody else?
I'm really grateful for the work that you guys have done. I'm really thankful to hear that it's not just, let's put together a number of minutes that it should take. You know, I can only speak from my own experience, but I'm working my 4th kid through the system right now, so it's varied. You know, I've seen a few things, most of them good things, but I can see a change in homework. And even with my little ones now, my youngest one will be in 2nd grade next year. It used to be more, you have to get this packet done, you have to do, you know, these multiplication facts 27 times on 5 different sheets of paper, and it's going to take us 3 hours, and everybody's stressed out, and, you know, we work 40 hours a week, and how can we help them? Now, we just did, my youngest one in 1st grade, they did an ocean project, and they had, you know, I think it was like 3 weeks, maybe in a month, that we had to turn this project in, and it became a family thing. I mean, I can tell you a whole lot about whale sharks now, but more importantly, we got to be there and learn a new skill together. And, you know, it was time that I was sort of like, okay, we have to dedicate this to it, but it was meaningful. So it wasn't just that she was learning all about whale sharks, but we were spending time together in a quality way. And I think that's a really important aspect, because family life is changing. Family life is very different than what it was, you know, 40 years ago. Most of us are 2 parents working and full-time jobs, and kids are doing 27 activities, and we're all over the place. So it can't be looked at the same. And I really am grateful that you're taking that into consideration, and that's part of it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
They're going to keep meeting, right?
Yeah, so
Just looking for direction.
at some point, we would love some direction from the board about whether you would like us, what you would like us to work on next. If you would like us to continue, I'm kind of sensing some interest in the additional surveys, which we have prepared, and actually can do that in the fall. And then I think it's up to the board whether you would like us to come to you with a proposed draft policy that would perhaps be organized by grade level. And that's certainly up to you, and you don't need to decide that tonight, but I think that would be helpful.
I think this is just my, I think the surveys would be a great next step, both the teachers and parents. And then you have the complete picture, and I think after we get that information, we maybe can see what next step we might need to go. I mean, I hear what you're saying. There's really no hard and fast rule about homework. So that makes it tricky to have a policy, because if you're going to have a policy, it's got to have teeth, and then you've got to make sure that everybody's doing it. And I'm not so sure that we can. I'm not saying we can't, but I'm not sure we can.
It might be a grade span, something in like the school handbooks that agreed upon, where Wyndham and Raymond works together for grade spans and comes up with these are the pieces.
Some guidelines.
Some guidelines.
That might inform parents, students, and staff. These are the expectations for homework. I worry about a policy just because that seems so ironclad to me.
Yeah, I don't think we need a policy. I think
No.
guidelines
Agree.
and working towards consistency.
Right.
And we really needed the opportunity. Kim did an amazing job gathering all kinds of research for us to go through, and we needed to do that thoughtfully to come to this piece to speak about it. She cited the works on the back, so you're welcome to go in and dig even deeper, but you know, even on Facebook, and you see all the things of teachers not giving homework for the whole year, so it raises all these questions and concerns. So we wanted to do like an independent position of what's really the research out there, and then see what your next steps for us to guide us in our work would be, so.
Not that we're not ahead of the curve, but I often wonder if we would look at other districts' policies. Not that I might agree with them, but a kernel here and a kernel there for guidelines might be really helpful.
Have you heard anything from the principal of the Manchester? Because I know she had mentioned that she was very interested in, I don't know why, but in having her students participate in that. Also.
Right, we'll make sure that
Also.
happens, right. Yeah, we did know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that enough for you at this point?
I think so.
Kim?
So just to clarify, make sure that I've captured everything. Our next step in the fall will be to do the survey with teachers and parents with the possible goal of developing a set of guidelines per grade level that would be coordinated across the RSU. And we might also take a look at other district policies. So I think those are the three big pieces. And then we will touch base with Mrs. Danini as well to make sure that she has an opportunity to survey her students.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think we may actually have a survey already ready for them.
We do have one.
Just-
We also
yeah,
pulled
grade
back
4
a
through
little
6.
because at the end of the year, we're thinking
Yeah.
how many people are actually going to participate in May and June, and we really said, let's take a deep breath, share with you, come back when people would be a little bit more thoughtful about it. There's a lot at the end of the year, you know all that too.
And we also felt like we need a little bit more guidance from the board about what you would like, and I think we have that now, so that's helpful. Thank you.
Great piece of work,
Great.
thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the work. Okay, next on the agenda are appointments, and after we have the appointments, one of the staff is here, and we will call her up after we go through the list. Who would like to make the motion on our appointments for the 2017-18 school year?
I would like to make a motion to approve the following appointments for the 2017-2018 school year. Elizabeth Harris, social worker, Jordan Small Middle School, and her salary would be $29,379. Carol Hazard, 3-5 English teacher, Wyndham High School, salary of $22,536. Andrea King, guidance counselor, Wyndham High School, salary of $37,560. Allison Shadler, kindergarten teacher, RES, with a salary of $39,024. Martha Stone, 1/2 guidance counselor, RES, with the salary of $32,732. Adam DeVoe, special education teacher, Wyndham Middle School, $37,397. Emily Higgins, special education teacher, Wyndham Middle School, $35,769. Katie Thomas, teacher at the Manchester School, $39,024. Shelley Roberts, speech therapist, Wyndham Primary School, $57,075. Lorna Harriman, teacher, Wyndham Primary School, $35,769. Kaylee Kent, teacher, Wyndham Primary School, $37,397. Connor McNeil, special education teacher, Wyndham High School, $39,024. Karen Roy, special education instructional coach, to be determined, $55,445.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Just so everybody understands, that TBD on that last applicant, Karen Roy, I guess Lisa is going to be hiring 2. And it's a TBD because she has to wait till she gets the second one to decide whom is going where. Did I get it right, Christine?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Very good.
And after we'll take a vote, and then we'll ask Allison to step to the mic, please. Okay, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Allison, if you'd like to come up and introduce yourself and just give us a little blurb about yourself. Sure. Thank you. Actually, you can say whatever you'd like. How's that?
Okay.
My name's Allison Shadler, and I'm very excited to join the staff at RSU 14. I'm specifically really excited because I was a student at Raymond and have been a resident for quite some time now. And this will be my 5th year teaching, and I'm just really excited to be back into the community where I grew up, giving back, teaching the kids, working with the community and the families. And I look forward to starting in the fall.
Thank you
Welcome
very
back.
much.
Thank you.
It's always great when new staff come in and we get to see them, and we put a face with a name, and you get to see us, so we don't scare you when we peek through your door in the building. I'm speaking for myself. I'm sorry. Okay, moving on.
I have a question.
Did we vote?
What does the R?
Oh, I'm sorry. Replacement. The R's are
Replacement?
replacements, and the N's are new.
Okay, I didn't think it meant Republican.
We're not entering that territory.
Did we say all those in favor?
Yeah.
Do we have a first and a second?
Did she vote?
Yeah.
Did I vote?
Yeah.
Oh my
Sorry, Kate.
We have a little recess.
Okay, so
Senior moment.
if we could do the second-year probationary contracts for teachers.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant second-year probationary status for the 2017-18 school year to the teachers listed. Mark Chase, the industrial tech STEM teacher at Jordan Small. Sherry Ann LaValle is a teacher at Wyndham Middle School. And Tom Offit is a resource room teacher at the Wyndham High School.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor?
I remembered now.
It is unanimous.
Sorry, I was reading ahead.
That's okay. So now we're on to the continuing contract status. Like there's a motion.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant continuing contract status to the 2017-2018 school year to the teachers listed here. Sally Plummer, speech language pathologist, Jordan Small Middle School.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? Is this? It's continuing, okay. Any motion? Comments? No? All those in favor? It is unanimous. All right. Not too bad. Next on the agenda is Bill Hanson. Do you want to just go up there, because I think the next few of yours will just make it easier. So if I could have a motion, the next on the agenda, and we have the documentation in our packets for more information, is the Wyndham Primary School elevator.
I move to award the upgrade to the Wyndham Primary School elevator controls to Maine Elevator Specialist Incorporated of Wyndham, Maine for the amount of $110,974.50. The funding for the project would come from $90,000 in fiscal year 2018 funding and $25,974.50 in fiscal year 2019 funding.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Want to give us just a little?
Sure.
Brief?
Yeah. Bill Hanson, Director of Facilities, RSU 14. Came back to you a few months ago talking about this issue with the elevators at primary school. And I want to appreciate your direction to look at both options, because we found there was very little cost to bring it up to the 2013 code additional, and that's my recommendation that we do that, because that building will be in service for a long period of time. Make sure you're all very clear that these changes affect a couple of things. They affect the operations in the control room, which the kids don't go into, and they also impact the elevator's ability to be held in one place while it's being serviced. Again, another thing the kids are not impacted, or even the staff. Okay, these efficiencies are an issue for when it's being serviced. The plan would be to get one this summer. It's about a 2-week process, and I get to order parts. So I get one this summer, we get one over the Christmas break, and we get one the following summer. That's the plan proposing, we can get it all done in that period of time. But what ended up happening is 2 of our elevators would have conditional certificates for a portion of this year, and then one would have the conditional certificate for the remaining of the first year, of this last year. Right, so it's my recommendation that we move ahead with that improvement that would get the elevator completely current with the current code, and would address the deficiencies of the ability to stop the cardboard ship.
Okay. For clarification, Bill, there are 3 elevators, 1 in each house, right?
Correct.
Okay. So those, we don't know what school set.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, go ahead.
Just real quickly, we were required to go to 2010, but not 2013, but we're recommending to go above that.
Actually, we were required to go to the code that was, it was built in, which actually would have been the 1981 code. Okay, and then again, I really appreciate the board asking me to look into what would be the difference. And I think the reason I recommend to go to the newer code is, for some reason down the road, if there is some sort of a requirement to bring all the elevators to the newer code, where are we going to be there? So I think it's money well spent. It's not a lot of extra money. It was in the order, I think, of about I think I mentioned that it was in the order of, I think, $3,000 or $4,000 an elevator to get to that point. It wasn't an awful lot of money.
Yeah, I feel better about
Yeah.
being up to current code
Yeah,
than a
no
30-year-old code.
Because they could change, I remember when elevator recall became a mandate, and everybody had to do it, so.
Yeah.
How do you do an elevator recall? Just
Yeah,
shut it down?
Recall it to the first floor.
So,
But,
I'm glad
Got it.
the board urged me to look at that, because by law, we're not required to. The elevators are actually governed by the code in which they were installed.
Wow.
However, I do think it's a good move, because it does future-proof us, and that building is not going anywhere.
Okay, all right. All those in favor? It is unanimous. And next on the agenda will be the primary school boiler, which is attachment B. If I could have a motion, Eric.
I'm doing the next one. I could do that too. I move to award the contract, oh, you're right. You're right. Motion to award the contract to Thayer Corporation, Auburn, Maine, to replace a boiler and a hot water boiler at the Wyndham Primary School, not to exceed $150,000 per RFP number 18-02.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Okay, so I think most of you are aware of this, but the primary school has 2 cast iron sectional boilers that provide heat to the building. The one that has not been operational for a year actually started to have leaking in the castings. So the sections are cast together in sand, and then they're put together in sections. It actually was leaking in the casting section, which is not where it's jointed together. We tried unsuccessfully to replace 2 of the sections, continued to leak, and it's been down. Fortunately, we were able to make it through the winter with just 1 boiler, but that's not a place I really want to stay with. So we're replacing it with a high-efficiency condensing gas boiler, and the intention is to run this boiler, have the ability to run this boiler on either propane or natural gas. It will not run oil. Oil condensing boiler is very expensive and complicated to operate, because when you condense the flue gases from oil, you create sulfuric acid, which is, as you kind of understand, is not a great thing to deal with. It can be done. So we did competitively bid this, looked at actually got proposals back from 2 vendors, Mechanical Services and Thayer Corporation. I looked at them on a rating system, and based on the overall rating technically and cost-wise, Thayer came out as being the best choice for the district.
All those in favor of number 1? It is unanimous.
Okay, I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into financing agreement for the lease purchase of the award bid through Androscoggin Bank at $150,000 at 2.9% fixed, amortized over 4 years, at an annual cost of, can't remember, $37,161.99. So $37,161.99. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20-AMRSA subsection 4001, something, chapter 3, verse 3, I don't know, but it's something 3. Oh, in the format presented.
Second.
Okay, does anybody need him to read that again?
I honestly
It's
do.
not first. I thought, can you read the number?
Which number?
Through the,
150,000 at 2.9%. It's going to be amortized over 4 years at an annual cost of $37,161.99.
so everybody get it? All set. Okay. Any questions?
Just trying to do that math in my head. 37,162 times 4 is how much? Less than 150, isn't it?
It is. That's what came through from the bank. So you're authorizing him to enter into it at 2.9%. Forgive me for interrupting. I see the same thing you do. I have the amortization schedule.
It's a 4-year, right?
4 year, but
4 times 40 would be 160, right?
Right.
yeah, so 37,162 times 4 is less than 150, so that doesn't even account for the interest.
Right. So their amortization schedule is obviously an error, but their quote is for the 2.9 at 4.
Yeah, I'm fine for the 150 at 2.9, but
Yeah.
that's just the wrong
So,
payment.
At a cost to be determined. Is that okay? Is a friendly amendment?
If we can get it for that lower amount, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
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 I have the
if-
schedule, it's just an error.
Do you want to make that amendment?
What are we amending it to?
Annual cost to be determined.
To be determined.
Okay, so,
This here will be a cost to be determined.
I'm sorry, numbers just run through my head.
all right, so I move that we amend it to be determined, the cost, annual cost to be determined of 150,000 at 2.9. Pete, you can't do that. You're a banker, goodness
Can I have a sec? Is there a second on that? Amendment?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment? Okay, back to the original motion. If, that's it. Can I have, we are going to vote on the motion as amended. Okay, all those in favor? It is
Thank you.
unanimous.
I will email that to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome.
All right, next is the Jordan Small boiler upgrade. Bill, are you gonna update us on that?
Okay, just real quickly, as you remember, we removed the Jordan Small boiler upgrade from the budget from fiscal year 18. It was in the capital plan, and that's one of the cuts we made. We did have a payment in that in 17. So what I'm recommending that we do is we use those funds to address 2 needs I have at Jordan Small and RES. One of which is the gym unit and the cafeteria unit still running pneumatic controls. And just real briefly, compressed air is used to control the valves so they work and don't work. And usually the answer is don't work very well. The other thing is that the head-end controls, the computer interface that we have in the Siemens controls was brand new in 2000. So if anyone's running a computer that was brand new in 2000 and software in 2000, you kind of know that that's it's getting kind of long in the tooth, as Bob would say. So what I'm actually asking permission from the board to, or guidance from the board, because it is under Don's spending level of 75,000, to reallocate those funds to address those 2 needs. They were on the capital plan, and they would have an impact in cost savings by getting rid of the pneumatic controls that have actually better control of what's going on temperature-wise in the gym and the cafeteria. And then I actually, for the first time, had the ability remotely to access these buildings and modify temperatures and things, like I can in Wyndham. Right now, I cannot do that. So usually weekend school breaks and stuff, I'm keeping an eye on those things, and it's not something that I can do. So it is reallocation of funds that we had budgeted in the 2017 budget to address future needs that we have. But because it's a change, I felt it was important to at least run it by the board, and if you felt that that was not something you wanted Don to authorize, then I would not do so. But there is opportunity to get it done this year, in this fiscal year, so it would not be funds out of next year.
Now, Dawn, we're not voting on this because it's under the,
The limit, that's right.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, are you looking for a head nod there, sir?
Well, because it's a change in allocation, I really want to be transparent with the board, so you're aware of it. I mean, the other choice is the money would go back to the general fund. That's your other choice. Those needs would still stay there, so they're in my capital plan. So, that's the other alternative. I'd like to move the project ahead because, again, it's real needs. I have no vision of what's going on up here as far as the ability to log in and work on stuff. And further complicating it, there's only one license, so that when Donna is working on the system, if Dale goes to log in, it kicks Donna off, so now she can't make a change or work on something, and vice versa. And then when Siemens comes in the current system, he knocks them both out. So we need to interact with our HVAC controls so that we can make sure that we're doing a good job as far as energy goes, and also things change. Rooms get cold, and why is it? Well, that is our roadmap to see what's going on initially. So.
Okay.
You staying with Siemens?
I am. At this point, great question. We have a lot of installed base here, and to change that to a different head end would probably cost significantly more than what I'm looking at. And they've done a good job. I mean, as you know, there's a lot of good companies out there. I've been, happy with the work they've done. I want to get into it deeper myself, and I really can't remotely with the system we have.
Well, I, for one, I respect your opinion. Mm-hmm. And if you feel this is necessary, I don't have an issue with it. So, is that correct?
I'm fine.
Yeah. I'm good with it.
I'm good.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the Raymond Elementary School playground expansion. And by the way, thank you very much for the tour. It was very enlightening. Cool job they're doing over there. Okay. So, if we could have a motion?
I move to award a contract with C.H. Stevenson, the current responsible low bid contractor, for the project in the amount of $150,100.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
You're on.
So, as you're aware, that project isn't in the order of, I think we're at around $700,000 total, and we don't have that funding to do that complete project this summer. So what the board approved previous was the money to haul in the fill, so the military could do their work, which they're actively doing right now, bringing the area up to base grade. What I'm asking for funding is the funding required for Stevenson to come in and to stabilize the banking, put in all the water quality, drainage and filter systems, and basically you would be complete in the project from the current lower grade of the land up to the base grade of the field. That would be complete, and there would be no rework. It would stop and stuff like that for about a year until such times we had more funding. I would use every penny that we have in our reserve fund to get there, and we would not have a finished field. We would not have a hard play service area, but we would have a completed stormwater treatment system. So from the DEP's eye, we would have made significant progress in improving the water quality and the filtration on that job site. I think it's a good, clean place to leave it because we would just be building forward from that point in the future years. And I'm hopeful that we can continue this work next summer, obviously dependent upon the availability of funds and budget.
Anybody got questions? No? We're all set. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Okay, moving on. This will be different for some people. Not everybody knows about it.
Okay.
So the softball dugouts at Wyndham High School.
So for those in the public may not realize this spring we had to tear down the dugouts at the softball complex, the varsity softball complex in the high school. Structurally, we had deficiencies in the brick and mortar that were holding them up. They were deemed to be unsafe by the structural engineer for us to have there. So very unfortunately for the season, that basically we had a cement slab which was served as a dugout area for softball. The boosters are very interested in changing that, bringing it back to where it needs to be, that there's actually a structure. The plans we have in the works right now are to have, you kind of know the way I kind of like to do things, having architectural drawings and structural drawings pulled together as to how these dugouts will be built. And then the goal is to work with the community to build that per those plans and specs so that we don't repeat the challenges we had here with the structural issues. So this is really information for the board. It's a change in the facility outside, and that's a requirement to make sure you're aware of that. It is a donation of materials that would become, and services would become property of the school. So in the end, it would be just that. So just want to see if there's any concerns in this moving forward. We will be pulling a building permit. We will have structural plans. Have checked, the state fire marshal is not interested in a permit for that because we have the way it's constructed. I do have concerns about limiting access to a press box that's going to be on the second story of the home dugout, working with engineers with that, and I'll share that with you via emails because I don't want to create a space that could be a challenge. And also, as we construct these, we'll be constructing in a way that we can secure them at night so they don't create a place that could harbor, activities with students or what have you. So that's one of the things I'm really looking hard at as we're building this forward, but it would be a design product that a professional would be signing off and stamping. So I feel confident that we would not go back to this situation having a problem in the future.
Anybody have any questions? Bill?
Where's the funding coming for this?
Rich Drummond is working to obtain the skills, services, and materials to build this, so there would be, I would say, very limited cost to the board. At this point in time, we are spending in the order, I think, $7,000 or $8,000 to do the design work to get those stamped drawings. And from that point on, I'm hopeful that the boosters are able to raise all the funds for the materials and labor to build these over the summer. I will update the board as that picture becomes clearer. It's still a little early because we don't have final plans, but I know there's a tremendous amount of interest to make that happen. The emails are coming in, and they were very pleased this was something that's been on the agenda for tonight, so for our discussion.
Bill, is that 8,000 in the budget currently?
It's coming out of the operating budget that I have. Yeah.
Maybe else get anything?
Okay.
Okay.
The-
Next.
Very, very similar. We have money available in the capital reserve fund that was established for renovations of Field Allen. As you're aware, we took the removal of the ACM tile out of the budget that we had planned. And what I'm proposing that we do is, because there's still funding available in the capital reserve fund, that we continued on that path of getting the ACM tile out of the art room and get that part to a similar condition as the rest of the building. The rest of the building interior has all been taken care of except for those last two classrooms. I have the funding available in the capital reserve fund to do that, so it's not going to be, it would expend the remaining funds I have in that, and it would not, the scope of work really is replacing the intermediate wall between the two classrooms that isn't built the way it should be, and then flooring and caseworks for art, and ceiling and lighting would be done. So it would make that building pretty much consistent from one end to the other.
Would we be completely done with asbestos in that building?
When I remove this, all the exposed asbestos would be gone. Where we still have some asbestos, which would be in the final stages, is under the carpets in two classrooms in 9 and 11. And it's encased on the carpet, so it's not a concern now that there's still asbestos. And there still are a few mudded fittings up in the ceiling that are inaccessible at this point in time until we physically tear down the spline ceiling, which is above the suspended ceiling, to get to that. So that's really is the last phase when we look at putting in, the recommendation of finishing the HVAC and the sprinkler system for that building, which it would be way to be determined what happens with a middle school as to how far we go with that.
Is there any cost savings or efficiencies of doing those two remaining rooms at the same time, or does it?
There would be some cost savings. Unfortunately, they would also the additional cost, because I'd have to remove the carpet and the tile, and then that all new flooring would put me above the funds that I have available in my capital reserve to do that. I'm ballparking it somewhere, probably to finish it up somewhere in that $40,000 to $50,000 range of additional funds that I don't have right now.
I'm
So-
sure Mr. Hickey would chip in. You've always been good to him.
We have a very good color printer, but unfortunately, it's not that good. So I would like to get it all, but I don't have the funding available to do that. Talking with Northeast Test, because we have to do the carpet removal, we're going to have to do a full containment to do that, because when you pull the carpet up, you chance of liberating the fiber, and that's also going to be a good time to get those mudded fittings. We do the same thing. It would be a containment. The art room, because it's exposed asbestos tile, that can be removed by, we monitor still, so we have test data, but it's done through, it's a heat removal process, so you don't create the fracturing of the asbestos, so because it's all accessible. So it's a different process, so they don't do the containment. So yes, there would be advantages of doing it all at once, but the funding isn't available at right this time to do them both.
All right, thanks.
All righty, so the next piece of this happens to be still in the middle school, and this is the HVAC.
Okay.
HVAC improvement.
Just real quickly, you may have read what I sent you, but as you're aware, we continue to have more and more concerns and complaints of the noise from the unit ventilators that are brand new in '77. I was brand new in '66, and I'm finding I get a little creeps and now and then. So what I'd like to do is, next Friday, I requested several different engineering contracting firms to make proposals for alternates to replace them. Okay. Everything from using ERVs to replacing unit ventilators to, I'm asking you to be creative. What are some of the ways we could do it? With the goal of looking at replacing one or two of the worst units to test them and see if we're happy with how they perform, such that when we get to the next stages in our decisions for that building, we have a choice. The other thing is that even if we are selected for a new middle school, we're still probably 3 or 4 years away. I'm going to have to do some selective replacement because they're just so noisy. And they are impacting learning. And I want to understand the process of doing that before we jump into a larger project, if that's our choice, to do that maybe in 20 classrooms. I want to understand the pluses and minuses and challenges so that we can have a really good schedule, because when we do that in the course of maybe next summer, if that's our choice, it's going to be a lot of coordination ahead of time to do that. So I'd like to try a couple just to see, do they really provide the improvement we're looking for. I'm looking for improvement in CO2 levels, because right now I have a very hard time with controlling CO2 where it should be. I'm looking for improvement in overall room comfort, because if you sit by the ventilator, either you roast or you freeze, but the person that's in the other space, that isn't the case. They're the opposite. And then noise is the third thing I'm looking for. And that's been, actually, those are the design criteria that I gave to different firms to look at. So it is spending some money from the CRP that we have for this capital reserve fund. However, it's it'll be below the 75,000. So it's more information. If you said, hey, no, I want you to wait another year, then I can take that direction. I recommend that we do it because it gives us some good data and direction in the future action.
It's not on our agenda, but on the last page of the memo, did you want to do just a quick thing on the small gym exterior painting?
Oh, sure. So there is just real quickly, we have a CRP that we established last 2 budget cycles ago for $25,000. We actually did the bidding, and I guess I'm a pretty good guesser because 24.9 is where it came in, and we didn't broadcast that. So we are in the process. In fact, I have the contract here for Dawn to sign of getting that done this summer. If you drive by Jordan Small, you can see the siding has been peeling probably from day one. What we did is,
Attest to that, yes.
yeah. So actually, I went to Sherwin-Williams and asked them to give us a restoration process they would stand behind. Reps came up and looked at it, did some tests, and we actually have a Sherwin-Williams approved painting process that the contractors are required to follow to address the issue. So it wasn't, the painting contract didn't drive it, it's actually Sherwin-Williams, and I'm really pleased that we have that manufacturer's backing of the project. So it is a $25,000 project. It's actually slated to potentially start on the 10th of July, right after the military leaves. And the plan is to get that done right ahead of the roofers as they're coming in to replace the roof in those areas as part of that project. So Jordan Small is going to be busy this summer.
I don't know, but I like the name, Nifty Painting.
Painting, I saw that too.
That's pretty,
Oh.
Pretty nifty, huh?
yeah, that is nifty.
Luckily for you, everything goes on schedule too.
But anyway, well,
So,
thank you. I think,
Yeah.
I think that's the end of your stuff and all. I mean, really, it was pretty long.
yeah, I think it is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Okay, next on the agenda is Mike Kelly, the Transportation Director, and this is the elementary bus run to Raymond and the impacts of adding a possible middle school run. We haven't had any conversation on this in a while. We kind of waffle around it, and I think, first off, I think part of the thing we need to think about is the fact, and we've never really finalized whether we want to continue, because there were X amount of students, and I don't know what number we're up to. What's the number we're up to now that we're transporting?
Right now, last number was 7.
Okay, it's 7 students. In the beginning, we could not really get many to join up. And I think what happened was, if I remember correctly, Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, that there really wasn't a lot of advertisement or push, you know, to incoming kindergartners, because it was kind of like, well, that's not a big number, maybe we kind of like let it peter out. And now we've got parents whose kids have gone through Jordan Small. They normally want to move them over to Jordan, from RES to Jordan Small, because otherwise they're going to go back right into the middle of the Manchester to go to 5th grade. You know what I mean? So that's pretty unnerving. So I guess part of the conversation, it's something that we're going to have as a board, is do we want this program to continue beyond the 7 students that are there, or do we let it just peter out? You know, we do the 7 till they get through and go on. So that's something,
Well,
it's a little late to have that conversation now, I know, because the kindergartners have been coming in, but that is a conversation, and if everybody, I'll get right to you in 1 second.
Sure.
If everybody is in agreement, you know, we could try to get that on on our next agenda, on one of our next agendas coming up, whether we want to continue with that.
Was he here to give us some information, or?
He's going to give us, he's going to, but that's just an update I'm giving
Oh,
everybody
okay.
as to, because some of the people have no idea, I'm sure,
Okay.
because we've been doing this for a while now and haven't really talked about, okay,
Hi, Mike Kelly, Transportation Director, and happy first day of summer, everyone. It's been a beautiful day. This has been going on for, I think this is year 4, possibly, I think. And when it was first conceived by the school board, what was created was a half position. We're using the existing bus to offer transportation for those students that want to come from Wyndham to RES. As time has evolved, some things internally have changed, and some of the budgets, I think maybe 2 years ago, the half position that was allocated for this particular service was eliminated. That was something I volunteered to do, because there are some other things that have changed within transportation that allowed me to absorb that function with some other things that are going on. So when we talk about just what's going on with RES, there's more that bus does than just that particular function. And at present, what it does, it also services North Wyndham on the high school run, and of course we also have the overflow from one of the daycare centers, so it services the daycare center as well. So it conducts all those duties on that particular run. So again, if we just consider one piece, then we have to look at the other pieces that will not be serviced, and it causes a great impact on the high school buses and one of the elementary buses too. So I think the question that you are looking at right now is that, can we continue with the middle school? Yes, we can. And there is no financial impact as a result if we made that decision. Reason being is because where the high school buses are going now. And as an example, but there's one little drawback to it. In the morning, when the bus is coming out to Mill Street to shuttle the high school students, we can pick that student or students up at Manchester like we do with the elementary students. We take the students to Mill Street, transfer them over to the the middle school buses for Jordan Small, and they would ride that route to Jordan Small. In the afternoon, what happens is the buses coming down from Jordan Small, they would jump onto the buses going back to Wyndham from the high school shuttle and return them to the high school complex. So there's no cost.
Cool. So I guess what we need, first off, is to see for the students that we presently have, or what we're presently doing, do we want to continue, because there is, as you said, no additional cost, do we want to, and it's important to some of the parents, and somebody, was it you, Anna? Somebody was talking to one of the parents, and they had heard that we were going to cancel it. That's kind of what really brought it even up more to the point, you know, that we were going to stop sending kids up here totally, you know. And so if we agree to do this, we have to get that information out soon, because some of those kids, and I don't know, do you have the grades?
I'm sorry?
Sandy?
What's that?
I'm sorry, do you have the grades that the students presently are in?
The ones that I have as far as the transportation is concerned, we have a first grader, 2 first graders, 2 kindergarten students, and 3 fourth graders.
Currently?
Currently.
Kindergarten or
Right, current, right.
So do we know if there are any new?
I believe there has been some correspondence. There's a couple, I think, but beyond that, I cannot say.
And it was also important because those, did you say fourth graders? Will be, next year would be going over to Jordan Small.
Right,
know?
and
I think that was the parent, I don't even remember who
All
told me.
three?
Oh, it was Dawn, she's not here. It was, she had talked to one of the parents, and they heard, you know, we were gonna discontinue it, and they were really upset because their students had been, they were some of the first ones to go here.
I've been contacted, and I believe Dawn has had communication with a parent about that as well.
Oh, the same parent?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and Mark, just to, the drawback on the morning run, even though there's no cost that's associated with it, it's the time that the student or students would ride in the bus, because by the time we pick them up, we would pick them up approximately 6:15 in the morning. They'd be delivered to Jordan Small probably an hour later.
Yeah.
So it's a long ride.
It really is, but I think it has to be stressed that if we continue this, that information has to be relayed to the parents so that they're aware of, oh, by the way, if you choose, if you choose to send your child up to this great school, the drawback is there will be a longer ride, or then they always have the option of driving them too, right?
Sandy, do we have other students that, from Wyndham, that go to Raymond that we don't provide transportation for?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know?
I'm sorry.
I think that, I know we have
did
at
in the
least one
beginning.
that's like a teacher's child that comes out to Raymond School.
Yes.
So I know there's at least one of those.
That is correct. And because I think when we started transportation at the beginning of the school year, I think the number was somewhere around 11, but there were some changes within the family situation, such as what you just described, took place. So that's why the numbers have dropped.
On the bus.
Correct.
Not necessarily.
Right. So I think those attending from Wyndham are greater than 7.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because when I look at the transportation system, it's only listing who is actually
Right.
taking the bus.
Right. So I think, so we have to have the conversation as to, do we want to promote? I mean, or actually, I guess it would be Kyle, because it would be the incoming, students that go there to get it, start promoting it more, because other than the first year, maybe second year, I don't think we ever promoted that. But then again, we never decided to continue it indefinitely either, because I remember Kate's concern was, we've got this big hunking bus that we're sending up here with just, at the time it was less, it was a small number. It was either 4 or 5, I forget.
We need to make sure that the communication about that is across the board and clear, because I know that some people have called Raymond Elementary and said, oh, I know I would like my child to go to here in kindergarten, but I know you're not doing that anymore. And so we need to make sure that the
That's right.
communication is clear about that.
We could have something in the link.
because we've stopped
I'm
communicating.
sure everybody knows.
And what's interesting is that for some time now, we've been providing the afternoon transportation for children, small students, down to the high school campus, because you have students that are participating in athletics, correct? That for reasons that the programs aren't offered here in Raymond, they are at Wyndham Middle School, so they are taking the bus, as I just described, and hopping onto the bus that's coming back from the shuttle run and returning to actually primary to do the primary run.
So I guess I'd like to query the board on whether, should we have another meeting to discuss this more, or do we want to say, yeah, we've already got the program going, and we want to.
Well, if I'm understanding correctly, there is no cost involved.
As far as the middle school, no. And like I said, I absorbed the cost of the transportation. It's evolved over the years. So the money that you originally allocated for this service has been eliminated. So I just absorbed it as part of the operation. And specifically, some things have changed, the dynamic in special education, so it allowed me to move some resources with the bus to another area that we needed because of the overflow in some of the elementary buses and the high school buses, specifically the shuttle buses. So it was just moving around a couple pieces here and there to make it work. And like I said, it's servicing a lot more needs than just that right now.
So it sounds like if it ain't broke, we shouldn't fix it?
That's my recommendation.
So do we all?
I'm good with that.
I agree.
Okay, so we won't have another meeting, but Sandy, I think it's very imperative, to Jeannie's point, that we sit with Kyle and Randy and define the communication. You know, this is what you're able to do, this is what you get, or what you don't get, and the whole.
Well, it's all across the board.
That's right.
It's not only Kyle and Randy, it's also information they're given at the district office. It all needs to be the same.
Yeah. No, I mean, and also to I'm trying to get more students either.
Oh, I see what you
As far as
mean.
we got students going
It's a
from
twofold.
Raymond to primary school as well, so
Right.
we'll continue that both ways.
Yeah.
She wants to promote it more.
I really want to promote it more, because it hasn't been promoted at all.
It was early in the start.
Yeah, first year or two.
When we were
And then
very
that was it.
concerned about overcrowding at the primary
That's
school.
right.
That was the
And
whole
then
precipice of it.
Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened since. I have seen nothing come home from, because we all get the primary school stuff.
Well, it seems to me that the kindergarten screening, or that kindergarten
It would have been the
piece
perfect time.
is the perfect time to introduce the opportunity, if you're interested, to go to Raymond.
Yeah. And then and then coordinate with Randy, because he could hold open house, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Right.
Open houses,
I
or,
understand.
I mean, there's a way to really.
Marge, may I? And some people are, I think, a little bit afraid of what they consider the time on the bus. In actuality, for the most part, it's a lot less than what their students or their children would naturally experience on a regular bus. Because once they pick up at the, let's say in this case Manchester, it's just a straight shot. And it's not doing multiple runs. And some of the students are on the bus like 35, 40, 45 minutes. And in
they
this
stay in
case, they
town.
may be on the bus 20 minutes, 20 plus minutes, thereabouts.
All right, Sandy?
And it's a nice ride.
Don?
Thank you.
You pass out any condiments, any
Yeah.
peanut sandwiches?
Once in a while.
Okay, great.
I'll be on it.
So, moving on, and you can stay there, Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
We have a lease purchase of school vans.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for 3 school vans through Gorham Leasing Group at $55,860 at 2.61% fixed, amortized over 3 years at an annual cost of $19,101.75. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20A MRSA subsection 4001 subsection or -3 in the format presented. All right.
Second.
Do you need me to?
Pete, you want to read the bottom?
Did you do the math, Pete, before we go on?
It seems right.
It works.
Through competitive bidding, Emerson of Auburn, Maine is the low responsible bidder for 2 2016 Dodge Grand Caravans and one 2016 Kia Sedona LX in the total amount of $55,860.
There's more.
Sorry.
The school board does
second
not
it
take action on
prematurely.
bids less than $75,000.
Now I'm
There.
seconding.
I didn't know if that needed to be read.
Does anybody need any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor? All those against?
I'm in favor, sorry, I'm reading it.
I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Okay, it's unanimous.
About the Kia Sedona.
You want in on that bid, don't you?
We could use a new car.
Okay, now on to the
Spunk me
the
every
lease
once in a
purchase
while.
of the school bus for 2017.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for one school bus through Gorham Leasing Group at $90,464.00 at 2.8% fixed, amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $19,090.99. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant with 20 AMRSA subsection 5401 15C in the format presented. School buses are competitively bid at the state of Maine level to assure school districts get the most competitive price. Through competitive bidding, W.C. Cressy and Sons Incorporated is the low responsible bidder for one 2007 Thomas Safety Liner 81 passenger conventional school bus dedicated to $90,464.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Mike, is this the replacement bus for the one that we got the email on?
Right. What happened, there's a series of events that occurred, but the one that actually drove it, and no pun intended, is that when about a month ago or so, one of our buses was on a athletic trip and it blew the engine. It was a catastrophic failure of the engine itself. So as Don and I had some discussions, the initial approach was to try to replace the engine, and it's a 2005. As we got deeper into the costs associated with replacing the engine, and I won't get into the whole details, the mechanical details and all that, unless you want to, but the cost was somewhere in the vicinity of $8,000 to $10,000. But since that time, and I did put an executive summary, I'm not sure, Dawn, if it was shared with the board, but there were some other issues with the bus that we would have to address, and that would have to do with the structure of the bus itself, which is not unusual for that particular model of bus, and got into the cross members, which is another $4,000 or $5,000. So my recommendation to Dawn was that we're throwing good money at bad. That's what it came down to. We'll back up a little bit. Every year, I ask Dawn and Sandy permission to replace 3 buses. And it's all dependent on, and that's asking subsidy from the state. And it starts early on. And so when we request buses in this particular cycle, for the fiscal year we're in, it actually started back in November of 2015, if you can believe that. And so that's how you work through the state process. We were allocated by the state subsidy for 2 buses, which we in fact purchased last August. And the third one just sat there in limbo, and we had no intention really of purchasing it. And I think it was the latter part of January, I think it was January 31st, Sandy received an email. It was generated from the state requesting system called NEO, that we were approved. And why that was approved is when there's surplus money because the district's not purchasing their buses, they reallocated the money. So that's how that came about. And I think it was right at the beginning of, it was the latter part of May or beginning of this month, the lady representing facilities and transportation from the state sent me an email. Do we have any intention of purchasing that bus that we've been given subsidy for? Thus, we had the conversation, here we are.
Okay, all righty. All those in favor? It is unanimous. On to the next lease purchase of the 2 buses.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for 2 school buses through Gorham Leasing Group at $175,000 at 2.8% fixed, amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $36,959.25. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20-AMRSA subsection 4501-15C in the format presenting, 5401-15C in the format presented. Do you want me to read the next word? Sure, please. School buses are competitively bid at the state of Maine level to assure school districts get the most competitive price. Through competitive bidding, DATCO Inc. of New Britain, Connecticut is the low responsible bidder for the 2 2018 IC/CE 77 passenger conventional school buses at $87,500 each for a total of $175,000.
Oh, wait, there's much more.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any conversation on this, Eric? Scott?
Just a question, are these 77 passenger?
Those are 77.
Okay. The title on attachment E says 2 81 passenger conventional school buses.
Because I had asked Terry the other day, because that was, I think she carried over the information from the Thomas bus, which is an 81 passenger. So they're the same type of buses. They're still Type C buses, just the shell's a little bit bigger in the seating capacity, but they're apples and apples. And so, but it's.
I must have a corrected version because mine.
Oh, is yours say 77?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It says 77 in the text, but just the title itself.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, let me make sure the ones we have to sign are right.
So, is one of my favorite drivers gonna get a new bus?
She doesn't want one.
And there it goes.
I'm
You
telling
tell her I asked.
She's stubborn as a mule. Doesn't want one.
The ones we have to sign, Dawn, say 81
Yes, so I will.
on the top. The wording in the content of the attachment says 77, but up top it says 81.
So I'm going to change that to 77 with board's head nod, I would say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure Dawn does that.
Okay, Scott.
Those we have to sign. Okay. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for all your support. And again, I think during the budget, I talked briefly to this, how the action of this board and previous boards have actually put the capital replacement plan, it solidified it. And so you're not going to have these little surprises from year to year, hopefully. Hopefully, but it's really done a wonderful job to solidify that process. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the purchase of MacBook Air computers and accessories. So everybody, if you remember on the, when we had to do adjustments, it is not attachment. Attachment. Yeah.
Attachment F.
Yeah.
Which needs to be
Which, I want to make sure it's the right one.
communicated when you have the time. Or wish to, rather.
Can you just hold it up for the camera?
Good evening, I'm Bob
Okay,
Hickey.
Bob Hickey.
For those who may not know me out in the community. We're talking tonight about the purchase of the MacBook Airs, which there's been deliberation on that during the budget season. This is the finalization of the purchase. The difference of this purchase beyond what has happened in the past with Mac devices is we were able to buy them through MLTI, and MLTI is now winding down, and so we're buying these direct from Apple. So the only difference in this purchase versus that purchase, there's no Apple TVs included with this because in the past the state would throw those in, and that's not the case here. So I apologize for confusion that the numbers in the agenda notes went out and said 130 and 20, and folks were totaling that up as individual computers, and those are 5-packs, which varies the numbers greatly. So Pete, I thank you for noticing that and bringing it to our attention. You weren't the only one. We heard from community members who were also confused by that, so apologize for that. So we're talking actually 550 student devices, 11-inch, and 113-inch staff devices. And as we jump to the bottom of Apple's price sheet, it shows two prices, the $647,105, which was pricing we got earlier in the year. We started looking into this in January, and now that we're June, the price has dropped on that existing equipment down to the $592, $555, which is the number we'll be asking you for. That's a $54,550 savings. So this represents not only the 650 devices, but cases and adapters for teacher devices to projectors, a warranty. We're requesting that the board ratify this purchase tonight. It's 0% financing through Apple for 4 years, and I'm available if there are any questions.
If we wait 3 more years, how much will the price drop?
Probably not enough that I'd want to face the teachers and the students with the old machines.
All right, now I think, is this,
So when you,
What we have in
when you
our
get to the
package.
second component to this, which is the lease purchase, you'll see I gave you tonight attachment F with some red changes, which was, I had asked the attorney to look at all of these before tonight, and he had been busy in northern Maine. But he got back tonight and said because it's a 0% interest rate, that the tax exempt status doesn't apply. So the markups that you see means that I'm going to be deleting that particular area when you do approve it, should you approve it, I should say.
okay, I didn't know if it would have any impact on the first piece of it, but, okay, great. So any other questions for Bob on the first part of this? We all set? And I think the question came up before of MacBook Airs. You had looked at other.
We looked at MacBook Pros because the board said, are there comparable devices that's not like an iPad tablet? And that's kind of what they had. And when we looked at pricing for that, it was actually more than the Airs. So.
Right. Okay.
Did we make a motion on this?
We didn't.
No.
So.
I move to move forward on the purchase of 135-pack MacBook Air computers for students in grades 4 and 5, including staff, for a total of 650 computers with accessories, 650 case plus warranties and dongles for connectivities of teachers' MacBook Airs to projectors. Directly from Apple Incorporated, education at 0% interest. The total project would cost $592,555. First year financing through Apple Incorporated is $148,138.75.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions?
I have one other question. What's the useful life of these expected to be?
Well, the state has always sanctioned them for 4 years with refresh, but we've always gotten at least 8 years out of them. And know that the high school has, the upcoming year is going to be their 4th year of theirs, and then at the end of that year, we'll either deploy those to another grade and get the high school new, or leave them at the high school and get newer for another grade. So we'll collectively as an A team decide what we want to do with the high school machines, but that's roughly 1,000. That'll be 4 years old, still very usable.
Is there a plan? Is this going to be similar to the older grade, the higher grades, that parents are going to need to buy the insurance for the students, even though they don't? I know they don't take them home.
Right. Well, we should definitely look at that because, yeah, as we get to the lower grades and they don't go home, we haven't charged insurance for that, but Marge, it's a great point, so yeah, definitely have to look at that. And we did mention these new machines to Jeff Vermette and Cross Insurance, so the plan is to include those. We just haven't made that aware to the parents and the
I mean, I'm
community
not
yet.
saying, you know, that's just a question. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if we should or we shouldn't, but that was just a thought. Okay.
I have another question.
All right.
Bob, do you track the utilization of these machines in all grades?
How so, Scott?
How frequently they're used?
All the time.
In 4th grade and 5th grade?
I know,
Well,
even my
right.
kindergartner or
Right.
1st grade this year, they have old machines that they use on a daily basis in their classrooms.
Right. We have like Dells and 8-year-old, 9-year-old MacBook Airs at 4th, 5th grade level now, and they are used a lot, and everybody's very much looking forward to this. Plus, we can track where each user goes on the internet. We're not seeing a big void, like this grade is not using whatever equipment they have. We're not seeing that when we're tracking through WebSense, which tracks the web traffic.
Okay.
So you can track it. I guess
Well,
that was really what it was.
We don't generally look for it the way Scott was, but it's just like we keep an eye on things and where people go, and we're not noticing a void. We didn't look for that, but we would see it if, it would be obvious if it was there
For a grade?
for a grade.
What if you have a teacher that really just doesn't want to use the technology?
We haven't really looked into that, but I could work with administration if that's what they want to do and track.
No, I think what he's asking, would it show up? Would it flag? Would something like that, would it flag itself?
It doesn't necessarily throw up a red flag, yoo-hoo, these aren't being used. That's why we haven't
Sure.
looked at it that
Okay.
way. But if we look at it through the other end of the lens, we could say, we could examine the grade, we could examine down to a class and see which students are in that and track their internet progress. And if there was little to none, we would know.
Okay. I have a concern. And my concern is that these machines don't really get utilized the way they probably should at this grade level. That's my concern.
Okay.
Would it be a lot of work to
Uh,
do that periodically? I don't mean on
We
an
could spot
ongoing-
check. I mean, it would be a lot of work to check 3,100 kids back the other way, but we could spot check and look for areas like that.
Don't start this summer, though.
Don't start what?
Don't start this summer.
Okay. Right.
Do we have
Okay.
basis for that concern though?
Yes. Personal.
Maybe
Concern.
he could just get with Sandy and let him know that.
Share
I think you
that.
did.
Share- Did you share that with Sandy?
If it's human resource, yeah, it would be with Sandy.
Yeah.
Or the building principal.
Sure.
You haven't gone there yet. That might be a good place to
No,
start.
it was a personal conversation between myself and my daughter,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Mhm.
And I asked her flat out, how often do you use these machines? Once or twice a week. Really?
Hmm.
Now, is that just a single teacher? It's a concern. So I'm just curious
Okay,
if there's a way to track.
sure.
You know, I'm not looking to throw any one single teacher under the bus. I would just like to know that we are getting our money's worth, that we're utilizing this equipment.
Right. Okay.
And in 4th and 5th grade, after this deployment, they'll all be on the same machine.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's the schools, they could be on an old white one, they could be on a Dell, there's such a mismatch that they're not even on the same platform. So I think, Scott, that's something to look as well, as now that we have the same platform, teacher and student,
Yeah.
the expectation is that there are certain things that should be, have an experience with that piece,
Sure.
so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
We all set?
I think so.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, one opposed. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Second,
Thank you.
You're not done yet, are you?
you're not done. Second half.
I move to authorize the superintendent, am I in the right place?
Yep.
Mhm.
to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for 650 MacBook Air computers and accessories, cases plus warranty, and dongles. No, I won't be able to stop. For connectivity of teacher MacBook Air, teacher projectors. Okay, through Apple Inc. at $592,555 and 0% interest, amortized over 4 years, at an annual cost of $148,138.75, should that be in the best interest of this district pursuant to 20 AMRSA 5401-15C in the format presented.
Second.
Just a clarification.
It's modified.
Yeah, that's Apple Inc. Education, right?
Right.
Two different,
Did I not say that?
two different, no, it's
No,
not,
it's not
it's
there.
not written there,
Oh,
although
okay.
it's written
But
in
it
the
is up above.
first one.
Okay.
Those are two different
I
organizations.
don't know, I had a moment, so maybe it's
I have a
possible that
question. Are we including the dongles or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does everybody know what a dongle is?
No.
I haven't.
Plugs into your,
It just
it's
connects
the
to the
wireless
video port to the
It's
transmitter.
those things at the town council that never work.
Oh, no.
They don't work.
Now I
They're
get
not
it.
made for the right same computers or something, yeah, we get that.
Dongles.
Okay. Did you say, did somebody second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Are we all set? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Motion carries.
Now you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
I don't know, you guys all got these, right?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to, they are in your packet, the district office executive administrative contracts.
I move to approve the amendment to the employment agreement for the superintendent, Sanford Price, at a salary of $140,000.
Price?
Prince, I said that, Prince. Excuse me, Sam, I'm sorry. I was caught on doggles. It all started with doggles. I got Sanford Prince, at a salary of $146,718, which will also extend the contract to June 30th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any comments or questions on this? And by the way, you have, in your packet, you have the proposed contract and the amendment on the front page of it. Are we all set? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstained? One abstention. Okay, moving on.
I move to approve the amendment to the employment agreement for Assistant Superintendent Don Davis at a salary of $124,145, which also extends the contract to June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, any comments? Maybe we've all discussed this to death, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Okay, opposed? Abstained? One abstention.
I move to approve the amendment to the employment agreement for Director of Curriculum, Instruction and Assessment, Christine Hester, at a salary of $101,574, which also extends the contract to June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? One abstention.
I move to approve the amendment to the employment agreement for Lisa Garneau, Director of Special Services, at a salary of $112,860, which also extends the contract to June 30th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and I just want to add, because it's not on here, that the amendment to Lisa Gano's is she shall receive 25 days of vacation annually, which has been put in her contract.
I also have a question. There was some verbiage that, I didn't really.
It has been.
It has been, okay.
It's been equalized to 3 of the agreements. One is a little different because the direct report is you folks as opposed to we direct
Right.
report.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 1 abstention. And that passes. Okay, so next on the agenda is the warrant for assessment of regional school unit tax. It is the assessment schedule and the notice of installment. So if I could have a motion, please.
I move to approve the warrant for assessment of regional school unit tax and to approve the assessment schedule and notice of installments in the format presented.
Second.
Wait,
A motion and a second. Dawn, could you give?
You started talking before the second.
I know. You know, it's like, oh, wait. Dawn, could you, just a brief, what this is about?
I'd be happy to. I actually don't have a copy in front of me, but I can tell you what it's for, which is to say that, as you know, the state of Maine provides allocations for the payment of education within our RSU, as does the town of Wyndham and the town of Raymond. At the end of the day, there's those assessments have to go to the communities for the component that's not paid for by the state and other revenues. So that's what you're signing, basically the monthly payment that will be requested of the communities based on this year's approved budget.
And 1 goes to each town.
That's correct.
Okey-doke. All right, so saying that, any questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Next would be our budget referendum results.
I move to vote that the computation and declaration of votes dated and attached hereto be and is hereby approved. Further, that the computation and declaration of votes be entered upon the records of the regional school unit number 14, the regional school unit. Further, that the certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks within the school unit. And those are, I'm going to start up here, I'm going to start here.
You can start there.
The
Wherever.
total number of votes cast in all municipalities within the region in the affirmative on Article 1 of the warrant and notice of election of the referendum held June 13, 2017, relating to the budget validation is 469, and the total number of votes cast in all municipalities in the region in the negative on said article is 249. Said votes being computed as followed. Town of Raymond had 169 for, 84 against. The town of Wyndham had 300 affirmative and 165 negative, total 469 to 249.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I was waiting. I have a motion and a second. We're pretty clear on that, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
You voted? All right. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Now we're down to report of the secretary.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 7th, 2017 meeting.
Second.
Okay, any comments, questions? All those in favor? It is unanimous.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 14th, 2017 meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Seeing none? Okay. Oh, all in the affirmative. They are approved. Before anybody jumps on that adjournment, I know you're going to, I need to ask everybody, you need to hang around because we have to sign. We have to sign. I
That
think
one's
we
for
all
adjourned.
have,
I only
yes,
have
we do
a
have to
pen,
sign.
so I'm out.
Okay, so,
And I don't have a pen.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.